Hello, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Nigeria. Good afternoon, Africa. It's great to be here again for another information session. I am Abiodun Owo. I am the Senior Programs Executive here at Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation. And I want to say thank you very much for joining us. We're here, of course, to hear about our grant cycle, which will be opening very soon. Yay! Okay, so we've been doing this for some time now, and we're very, very happy to find that we still have people who are curious to hear about what we do and how we do what we do at ACT Foundation. So welcome, everyone. Thank you very much. I see you, please. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. All right. Okay, so we do not want to waste your time. Today, we want to go straight into the crux of the matter. But before we do that, I would like to call on our program advisor, Ndifreke Upegunam, to officially welcome us, and then we'll get straight into the matter of the day. Okay, over to you, Ndi.
Hello, Abiodun. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I also want to deeply appreciate the CEO of ACT Foundation, Ms. Osai Alile, who is also on the call, for all the support that she is giving to the foundation and to the social sector across Africa, giving us the ability to keep doing this and to keep doing it well. So I just want to say a quick welcome to everyone that is on this call today. This is our 8th grant cycle that we are launching, right, since our inception in 2017. And we're very excited about the successes that we have had over the past 7 years. And we know that this 8th grant cycle would be even better. As you know, Africa as a whole has gone through different situations, different developmental challenges over the past few years. We exist as an organization, right? Not just as a grant-making organization, but as a Pan-African grant-making organization focused on supporting nonprofit organizations, not just with funding, but also capacity strengthening and ensuring that we build a strong ecosystem across Africa. Today, we're here to share with you information about our grant cycle, how we fund, why we fund, and what you should expect this grant cycle. We do not just want to share information, we also want to hear from you. We want you to ask us questions. We want to be able to give you information that would help you best apply for the grants and you get funding from ACT Foundation. There are not very many indigenous grants-making organizations on the continent, and we believe that the work that nonprofits and social enterprises are doing on the continent is very important, and that we are responsible for ensuring that we create the change that we want to see in our communities. So we are very invested in selecting the very best organizations that align with our criteria, that will be able to give funding so that we can continue the good work that you are doing in your communities. Collaboration is a big thing for us, partnership. So we want to partner with nonprofits to ensure that the impact that you make on the continent and in your communities is sustainable for the long term. Thank you for joining us today. Please, if you're here and you haven't told your other friends within the sector about this, please forward the emails or the links to your friends and your colleagues and ask them to join this. If one of us succeeds, we all succeed. If one of us change lives in our communities, that impacts Africa greatly. So we are doing this not just for ourselves, not just for our communities, but for Africa and hopefully the world as well. So please forward the emails, invite others to join us here today so that they can learn about how we fund, and also they can also apply for this grant and take advantage of this opportunity that we bring today. Thank you very much again, everyone. And I say a very big welcome to you as I hand over back to Biodun.
All right, thank you very much, Andy. So we'll be doing this together today, and I'll dive straight into the matter of today so that we get to understand the grant cycle, the requirements, and all of that. Okay, please confirm that you can see my screen. All right. Okay. So we start by introducing Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation to you in case this is your first time here. We are, of course, a grant-making organization. We were established in 2016. As a matter of fact, there were issues that needed to be addressed at that time. And instead of complaining, instead of whining, the founders of Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation thought to do something that would address the challenges that Africans are having. And these challenges, it is high time Africans started addressing the problem of Africa. So it was conceived, of course, in 2016. We started operating in 2017. And what we do is to support local, national and regional nonprofits and social enterprise organizations that are working to address challenges and the related vulnerabilities across Africa. So our funding is solely for Africa. Our vision is to leverage relationships to create effective social impact solutions across Africa. We do not take lightly the fact that we need collaborations, we need partnerships to be able to reach as many people as we want to. And to achieve our vision, we build sustainable societies by engaging initiatives, like the ones who are registered with us, who are already partnering with us, or those who are coming on board with us to do great work in Africa. At Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation, we understand that the challenges Africa is facing is a lot. However, we have decided to still start from somewhere. So our focus areas are not so broad. However, we have four. So that is health, we have environment, we have entrepreneurship, and we have leadership as our focus areas. In health, we fund initiatives that are in maternal and child health, and also in non-communicable diseases. Before now, we have focused on malaria, we have focused on cancer, but as we also continue to evolve and grow as an organization, we've found the need to continue to expand to other non-communicable diseases. So those will also be coming on board in our health focus area. In environment, we fund initiatives that are driven towards integrated waste management. We know that waste management is a big issue here in Africa. We also fund initiatives that are directed at increasing access to safe drinking water and, of course, on climate action. In entrepreneurship, our funding goes into initiatives that are focused on acquisition of vocational and digital skills. We know that in the world that we're in today, we cannot do without digital skills. Of course, we're not removing vocational skills from the picture. So we fund initiatives in vocational and digital skill acquisition, and we also do financial literacy and inclusion, especially for the less privileged, the vulnerable in the society. And in the area of leadership, we look at youth leadership, thought leadership, and national development. Africa has a big issue with leadership. So we fund initiatives that are aimed at improving leadership skills in our continent. And besides grant making that we do as a major task at Act Foundation, we also do capacity building. So when we fund organizations, when we fund the nonprofits or the social enterprises, we do not just leave them to do what they will do, but we do capacity building session. We have training sessions, we have seminars from time to time that we do with them. We have a professional volunteer program where we have professionals in different areas, in different industries who are veterans, who take our partners, our grantees on different areas of need. Besides that, we also have capacity building series that is meant for nonprofits, for the general audience. So from time to time, we also put up training sessions that give opportunities for nonprofits, leaders of nonprofits and social enterprises to attend. We've done things in branding and communication, for example, things around strategic planning, financial management, and what have you, and so on. And these sessions are usually based on the needs that we have found in the sector, in the ecosystem. We also pride ourselves in partnerships. We know that we can only do so far alone, but if we really want to go far, we have to leverage partnerships. We also do research. So the work that we do with our grantees, it churns out a lot of information, churns out a lot of data, and we do not just let those go. We use them as we collect the information to make meaning of what those things are. So you'll find research reports on our website. For example, recently we did something on gender mainstreaming in the nonprofit sector, and we found very, very interesting insights. You can go to our website to see our resources. And finally, we also do thought leadership. So you will find us producing podcasts and also partnering with organizations. So everything that we do not do outside the Sustainable Development Goals. Of course, you know about this. I won't belabor this. You know what the SDGs are. So all of the things that we do them in furtherance of the sustainable development of our continent. This is to show you a couple of the things that we've achieved in the past 6 years. So we have reached over 2 million people with various interventions. Currently work with more than 90 nonprofits and social enterprises. We've reached over 800 communities in Africa, and we're spreading our tentacles, gradually into Africa, and now we're in 10 countries. Very soon, Malawi and Rwanda, they recently won our Changemakers Innovation Challenge, and we'll also be joining the number of the countries, the African countries that we'll be partnering with. And so, like I said, we do a couple of things: capacity building, research. We have our podcast where we showcase, Africans doing great things in Africa. We also have our signature conference, which is the Breakfast Dialogue that we do every year that brings different stakeholders together to discuss Africa and how we move Africa forward. And like I mentioned, the Changemakers Innovation Challenge is a special project where we have people who are nonprofit leaders, social enterprises who are harnessing technology, to foster, to promote social impact in their communities. And so they apply for that. We recently concluded one, and we have winners that have emerged from there. And this is just to give you an overview of the kind of projects that we have funded and are still funding. So we have things, we have partners who work with pregnant women, who work with traditional birth attendants, who work with professionals, who work with nurses. We've done things in WASH. We've done things around neglected tropical and infectious diseases, and so on and so forth. We have partners who supply blood, to people who are in need of them. We work with young people in schools and out of school. In the area of entrepreneurship, we've also done capacity building for entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs, because they are more vulnerable in our society. We work a lot with households, we work with farmers, we work with micro traders and different other audiences like that. You can also see we do business development trainings, financial literacy trainings. We work with our partners have worked with persons living with disability, because we also categorize them as vulnerable in the society. We've done things around STEM for schoolgirls, for young people, for budding entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. In the area of environment, we've done things around tree planting, educating young people, constructing boreholes, providing access to water, waste management, and so on and so forth. And of course, in the area of leadership, we've also done a couple of things around, building the capacity, building leadership skills in various audiences, from young people to in-school youths, tertiary institution students, secondary school students, persons living with disability, and a whole lot of other things like that. And at ACT Foundation, we started in 2017. We have gradually moved from receiving just over 200 applications to now having a lot more applications, over 1,000 of them coming into us. So it becomes better and better and bigger for us. So this is just to quickly take you through what our process looks like. So the call for application will take 3 weeks. So I'm starting now, yes. Our call for application will take 3 weeks. So once that is out, you will get to know, follow us on social media, follow us on our various platforms. If you're in our database, you'll definitely get information from us, and we'll let you know, that the application has opened. This will run for 3 weeks. We would encourage applicants to, gather their documents, gather the materials, whatever it is that you need to successfully fill in the application, gather them in time, and start sending in your application in time. From experience, we've had people who, wait till the very last moment, and then they have issues, they experience hitches, and then they are unable to send in the application. So we encourage that you start in good time. Afterwards, what happens is the applications are reviewed. After that first stage of review, only those that are successful, that have gone through that stage, will then be contacted again, and they'll advance to the next stage, which is when we now call for proposals. So I just want to repeat again, because a lot of times we get emails from people who say, oh, they haven't heard from us. So we usually would contact only successful organizations from the application stage to get on to the proposal stage. The call for proposal will take 2 weeks. So those who have been notified will have 2 weeks to also send in their document. So at this stage, what you're doing is elaborating on what has been shared in your application, and then you're sending in supporting documents as well. After the proposals have closed, once we close, then it goes through another level of review by our external consultants. After that, those who are also successful will be contacted, and they will go through interviews with us. We'll go through some other form of due diligence, and then we'll do the final selection. This, give or take, takes about 3 weeks, all things being equal. Following this, all of the organizations who sent in their proposals will be notified on their proposal status, whether they were successful or whether they were not successful at this time. So you'll get a notification from us if you got to the proposal stage, to notify you of the status of your proposal. And successful applicants, of course, will be required to go through an onboarding process with us to understand what we do, to understand how we do what we do, and then yes, then they can start with the grant. So basically, what we look out for, just to give us tips again, what we look out for in our grant is, of course, for starters, the focus area, we focus on health, on environment, on entrepreneurship, and on leadership. So any proposal that is outside this focus area, of course, will not be considered. We also look at the quality of the project. How much research has been done? Why is it a problem? What is the problem statement? What is the solution you're preferring to the problem? What is the justification for this problem? Do we even need it at this time? Who is your audience? How are you going to reach them? What is going to be your sustainability plan, for example? What is going to be your monitoring and evaluation plan? How do you measure that you're successful? What is that going to look like at the end of your project? So all of that goes into the quality of the project. Those are the things that we look out for in the assessment of the application. Also, the project location. As of today, we fund African countries. So the project location cannot be outside Africa. Whatever it is that the application is about should be within Africa. For the type of organization, we only fund nonprofits and social enterprises. We do not fund for-profit organizations, at least as of today. So only nonprofits and social enterprises are the organizations we fund. And yes, your registration status is very, very important. Are you registered, for example, if you're in Nigeria, are you registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission? You'll have to, of course, show evidence of that. And if outside Nigeria, some form of business registration will be required from you. And the years of experience that we work with for now is at least 2 years for organizations that will get funding from us. We would love for them to have been in experience for at least 2 years. I know that for some people, they say, oh, they're not up to 2 years yet, they're just about 6 months old. We would like to get to know you well, establish some track record from what you have been able to do, and then we can, say it is okay to start to partner with you. Staff strength is another thing we look at. We know that for a couple of nonprofits, they may not be able to have all full-time staff. However, your staff strength should not be one that would also put you in jeopardy. So we usually would say at least 3 full-time staff is is something we consider. It will be also great if you have volunteers, for example. Besides numbers, what is the capacity of the team? You know, how much experience do they have? What skills do they bring, you know, to the table? So in terms of staff training, we're looking at the number of team members that will be implementing this proposed project, and then the capacity that they have. They should be able to demonstrate that these people have experience, they have the skills, they have the capability to actually implement the project. And of course, the governance structure, we're referring to the fact that the organization should have a board, an organization that wants to be sustainable, that wants to remain, you know, years down the line, should of course have some form of governance structure in place, and we require that you have a board in place. And yes, innovation and impact is something we cannot the application has become very, very competitive, yes. So if applicants are going to get funding, then they need to demonstrate some innovation. What are you doing differently? What are you doing that will actually meet the problem that you want to solve, that will actually solve that problem? And of course, in terms of impact, what impact does it have in the short term, in the long term, both in numbers and even in the quality of life that we would see at the end of the project that you are proposing? So innovation and impact is something that we look out for. And lastly, you have to be direct implementers. We encourage that applicants carry out the implementation by themselves. So we do not provide grants for applicants who will now grant others. Again, no, you have to directly implement. And we always encourage partnership as well. We encourage collaboration. So if you have strength in a particular area, and then you find that the project you want to implement, there's a partner that has, you know, some other strength, you can collaborate. Of course, you can come together and apply as partners. We have a level. There's that opportunity open. So collaboration is strongly encouraged. You can always partner with another organization in your application. Okay, so for the proposal stage, here are some things to note. We recognize communication in English, so all of the application has to be in English. The application will be made via our application portal. We do not accept applications via email. We will not be able to respond to that. So please, as much as possible, just follow the due process. Once the link is out, we will share it on our website, we'll share it on our social media pages, and then you will see that. So we've had complaints from people who usually would have connection hitch. So we expect that you ensure that you have adequate internet connection when you're filling the application online. Ensure that you fill all the compulsory sections in the application form. So for example, if you say you have a board and then we request their detail, please do not skip that. It only tells us that you're not able to, to provide evidence for that. So ensure that you fill all of the sections, all of the compulsory sections in the application form. And yes, before you click that submit button, ensure that you review your information carefully, and then please do well not to submit multiple submissions, because that will be disqualified. The maximum duration for proposed projects that we take is 12 months. In fact, you can make it 11 months maximum. That is good. Minimum of 6 months is okay, but then it cannot be more than 1 year, because this grant cycle opens every year, at least for now. Maybe in the near future, we'll go into multi-year granting. We also we reserve the right to disqualify applications that lack the required information. So if we ask for particular information and it is not provided, we may not be able to reach out to you, maybe via your email or via your phone number, because we have a lot of applications to deal with, and that may just earn the applicant a disqualification, and we do not want that. If there's any conflict of interest, it should be declared right from the application stage. Yes, it is also important that applicants send emails that are active when they complete the application form, we've had experiences of people who sent email addresses that are not functional. So sometimes they bounce back, and then it is not, to the advantage of that applicant. And all organizations whose applications are successful will be submitted, will be contacted and will be requested to submit a full application. So those who are successful, from the application stage, will move on to the proposal stage. So from the call for proposal till the end, when the decision will be made, will take, say, another 10 to 12 weeks. So some of the things to note at the proposal stage is that only successful applicants will be invited to submit full proposals. And at this stage, they'll be submitting a detailed budget. And for that, they will also get a unique link for them. I hope that you can hear me. Can I get a wave, a show of hand, or a yes? If you can hear me, okay. All right, thank you very much. Now, at the proposal stage, we'll also request that you demonstrate a strong communication plan. It's very important that you show to us, how do you intend, what is your strategy, for carrying out this important project of yours. Your monitoring and evaluation plan is also very, very important. What are the things what are the objectives you want to meet? What are the activities that will lead you to achieving these objectives? What are your indicators? How do you know that you have met these? And so on and so forth. What's your outcome, for example? How will you measure your outcome? And so on and so forth. Of course, your sustainability plan. So these days, of course, sustainability is something that we can't take out of the equation whenever you're talking about projects. So we want you to move from when a project is no longer funded, how are you going to continue on that project? We would like to hear that. I would like to hear your sustainability plan. Also, your risk management plan is something that is also important that you include in your proposal. Never mind, you have all of these questions, and what you just need to do is respond to them. And your project budget should be submitted, of course, using the budget templates that we will share with you. Sometimes we have people sharing their budgets in PDFs, so they're in PCs and all that. And before you know it, we're not able to contact that applicant, and that's the end of it. So we do not want that to happen. So please, as much as possible, use the budget templates that will be shared with you. Proposals must indicate the correct number of direct and indirect beneficiaries. We had sometimes, so you just need to think through really what your project is about to achieve. Who are your direct beneficiaries? And you can extrapolate, you can project, what your indirect beneficiaries will be. So we always request that information. If successful, applicants will be requested to submit documents in preparation for due diligence. And I'm just going to quickly list them. So if you're in Nigeria, your CAC certificates, for example, if you're outside Nigeria, your certificate of business registration, the Form 7, which for Nigerians is like our CAC Form 7 as well, showing your registered board members, your audit report. In Nigeria, we also request the Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering certificate, that's a SCOMO certificate. Your board profile. So the board profile is supposed to list your board members and tell us briefly about them. Yes, your management team, the organizational policies. So your HR policies, for example, your finance policies, and as many policies as you have. If you'll be partnering with someone else, then we'll need a partnership agreement from both of you, just so we know that you're on the same page. And lastly, we require a reference letter, either from a past funder or from an individual that can vouch for you as an organization, that can tell us that, yes, you're a credible organization. And yes, your budget sums will be in your local currency. All right, so because this is not just an information session, we also want to quickly take a flashback to the learnings from the just concluded grant cycle, which is our 2023 application. There were a couple of things that we noted. And for those that were disqualified, one of the things, the major is that they had weak monitoring and evaluation plan. So some of them failed to, show us what indicators will be measured, what was the plan for tracking their activities, for example, it was missing. They also did not delineate the roles and responsibilities. Who are those that will be responsible for what? How the outcomes will be verified and how it is tied to the project. Some of this information were missing. And then, of course, the logical framework too, for some of them, it didn't demonstrate, how that the project is effective enough to achieve the outcome they were looking to achieve. And then, of course, how the expected outcome will be measured. Some of the proposals failed to demonstrate this. In a couple of others, the organizational structure wasn't we couldn't move them on because it was either missing or inadequate. For example, board composition, some people failed to provide that information. And then the team strength and capacity, we found that a couple of people were heavily dependent on volunteers. And I tell you that even with full staff, you have people, relocating. It's a reality that we're dealing with. So for us, it's safer that you have full-time staff than to be heavily dependent on volunteers who can choose not to show up tomorrow, and there isn't much you can do about it. So for such proposals, they weren't convincing enough for us to go ahead with. In terms of team capacity and strength, there were teams that did not particularly show full understanding of the project that they wanted to do. We found that when we asked questions, it was more like the funder or the project manager who had all of the knowledge. and that for us doesn't show team spirit. So we were not able to go ahead with that team. And for some teams, they couldn't provide adequate response, concerning the project that they wanted to do. So they weren't convincing. In terms of project sustainability, we would have loved to see that the proposals had, their key stakeholders in mind. So some of the proposals that didn't get to the next stage did not demonstrate that they were including their key stakeholders. We are working in communities, for example, it is important that, the community leaders are included, are considered, even right from planning of your project. And then diverse funding sources is important. The days and times that we're in, even with dwindling funds and all that, we wanted organizations to demonstrate that they were able to get resources from other sources besides ACT Foundation. And of course, beside monetary funding, it was important that they also showed in-kind support for their project. So for proposals that couldn't show this, we were unable to go ahead with them. In some others, we found that the cost per beneficiary ratio was rather high, so by cost per beneficiary ratio, I mean the total cost of the program, including the direct and indirect cost divided by the maximum number of beneficiaries. So for example, if you asked for 100 million naira, for example, I'm just saying hypothetically, you asked for 100 million naira and you want to reach 100 people, and someone else is asking for 50 million naira and they're planning to reach 500 people or 1,000 people. That, for us, and I'm saying perhaps the same kind of project, that demonstrates to us that, this person, the other person, is able with lesser resources to even reach more people and to do even more quality projects. So the cost per beneficiary ratio was one of the factors that disqualified some of the proposals that we could not go ahead with. For some, it was their online presence, because for due diligence, we had to search people out. We couldn't find them. We couldn't find their website. We couldn't find them on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. And that for us didn't say it. So you need to show that you're present. So in these days of digital, savvy, people need to be able to find you online just so that they can search and see your history. What have you been doing? What's your track record? For a few who even had website, there was scanty information, or maybe on their social media page, the last time they posted was 4 or 5 years ago, and that didn't tell us that that much was going on in that organization. A couple of other things that disqualified other proposals were the proximity to the project location. So if my location shows that I am based in Lagos and I'm planning to run a project in, say, Cross River, and I have not demonstrated that I have staff presence there or that I have liaison presence there, then it reduces my chances of getting funded. If I was able to demonstrate that, okay, I have presence there, we have a team there that is also affiliated to our organization, or for example, you have partners that can implement that project, then you would have counted for something. Also, budget planning, the budgets that were sent in for some of the proposals that were disqualified were just not realistic, looking at the kind of project that they wanted to implement. And of course, finally, last but not the least, as much as we would like to support many applicants with grants, you should understand that we are also faced with limited funding. And so there are times that we've got really great projects, really great projects. And then because of limited funding, we've had to make decisions. So in such cases, you might find cost per beneficiary ratio taking the center stage there. And so things like that. So at the end of the day, even when you have a very fantastic project, when you have a great project, it may have been due to the limited funding that we have that we weren't able to fund at that time. All right, so lastly, our application will be opening soon, sometime next week. Please follow us on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, follow us on LinkedIn, and of course, check out our website and you'll see more information on the opening of the grants. I want to say thank you very much for listening, and this is a good time to ask your questions. You can type in the question and answer section. Oh, I see we have questions already. I'll just go straight to the question. All right. Is there funding opportunity for mental health organization? Okay, so the question is mental health a non-communicable disease? If it is a yes, then please go ahead. Cindy, you can chip in as we go. Can an organization registered for 3?
Hi, sorry, Bibi, if I could just jump in very quickly in terms of the mental health question.
Okay.
So we have funded a few organizations that have done, that are implemented interventions in mental health. So let me give you an example. And yours doesn't have to fit that, but think about it. Think about the sort of intervention that you're planning. So we are currently funding an organization that is running a maternal mental health intervention, right? So mental health interventions for women, pregnant women or new mothers. That's an area that we are currently funding. In the past, we have funded interventions on maternal health for young people, and this was pre-COVID in schools. So it depends. If it falls, it may not be under non-communicable diseases. It could be under maternal and child health, right? Where you're supporting young people that have, for example, young people that maybe have gone through one form of abuse or the other, in terms of their mental health or how they're able to manage that. It could be, so think about, we haven't restricted ourselves to, let me put it this way, our focus areas are broad enough to allow you, right, to fit in your interventions as best as you can into any of those areas. So look at it from that area. So it's not impossible, because we funded one in 2017, 2018, and then now in 2019, and now in 2023. So please do apply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there, can an organization registered for 2 years but operating for 1.5 years apply? Okay, my answer would be yes, please go ahead and apply. You just need to make your application very, very strong, and convincing, yes, for us to go ahead. Nancy says last time we were successful in the first stage. Okay, she was talking about installing a particular app to proceed and that we were not reachable. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not aware of the particular app that you needed to install. If you're talking about the browser, which is Chrome browser, I guess that is why you may have had a challenge, but I'm not sure that you had to install any particular app. But we are refurbishing, we are doing an overhaul of our software, of our application software. So it's going to be a much seamless situation this time around. We guarantee you that. If your initiative covers both focus areas, will it be accepted? We will encourage that you apply for one, one focus area at this time, okay? Your organization has been in existence for a period of 2 years, but you have never received funding before. Is there possibility for you to be funded? Okay, so you have not received, do you mean external funding before? So for an organization that has been in existence for 2 years, we assume that you would have needed funding in some way to run the organization. Where did those funding come from? You should be able to, show us that maybe it came from your board, maybe it came from your management, maybe it came from team members. As long as you're able to demonstrate that, you can send in your application. And let's start with that. What organizational registration structures are accepted?
Hi, Bibi.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Sorry, if I could just jump in on that last question as well. So most organizations that are 2 years old, a lot of them haven't received external funding before, and we're aware of that. So we are conscious of it. So you won't be the first organization. However, some funding has come in for you to have been able to run that organization for 2 years. The funding could have come directly from you as the founder of the organization. It could have come from contributions from your board members, as Bibi said. That is good enough for us, right? For you to have been able to successfully run for 2 years, some funding has come into that organization for that to happen. So that won't work against you. So please feel free to apply for the grants, even if you haven't gotten external funding. But you have to be able to show either from one of the board members, whoever else has donated, family and friends may have donated to help you start. Bibi had mentioned during her presentation that you need some form of reference from an external funder. So that funder could be a board member that has funded you, telling us about you, why they funded you, why they've supported you, just a reference to validate that you are serious about this, right? Not just something you've created as a hobby and you're just trying your luck. You're really focused on ensuring that you are able to change lives and you're able to make impact. That's what we want to be able to see so that we can then consider your projects, your request for funding. Thank you, Bibi.
Thank you. Chair Mela is asking about registration structures. So far, like I listed, is if you're in Nigeria, your CSC certificate. If you're outside Nigeria, then your certificate of registration is what we would require. If you're affiliated to other networks, that is good, but we do not ask it as a compulsory documentation or structure from you. What is the grant amount? Do we need a budget at this stage? Yes, at the application stage, we would need you to give us, a lump sum of your budget. Of course, we would have planned that from the activities that you have mapped out. We usually would not give a ceiling for the grant amounts. We just advise that you work with what is feasible for your project. What kind of project are you looking to implement? What is feasible for that? If you're a new organization, if you're applying for the first time, we advise that you are conservative, with your request, because of course it's our first time. We would like to get to know you first, before we commit, big sums. So we do not have a cap. Depending on your project, please go ahead and put in what is feasible enough for you to implement that project. Of course, like we mentioned, cost per beneficiary ratio, you should also consider that such that you're not spending too much on external factors and spending so little on your beneficiaries. So those are things that you should consider in your budget planning. If one applied in the past, can one use the same proposal again this time? So my question will be, if you want to use the same proposal again, do you still have the same problem? Is it still at that same magnitude? Is there something new that is happening? Is there a new trend concerning that proposal that you had in the past? Then you certainly will need to update that. You need to update it, find out research. You even need to know, is this still a problem? So if it is still a problem, do your research. You need to do your research. What is your M&E plan? What's your risk management plan? What is your sustainability plan? Those are things that should actually go into your proposal for it to get funding. So if you didn't get funded the last time, is this still a problem? What are the new things that are happening concerning that we would like to hear? So do not copy and paste the same proposal from last year. What currency is the grant issued in? So we would, if you get to the final stage and you're going to be funded by us, the currency that we would use is Naira. Okay, hello, I was wondering how to get a position as a student. I currently, okay, perhaps we need to do this as a side gist. Cindy, feel free to chip in if you need to. What would be a good example or considered a conflict of interests? A conflict of, okay, for example, if a member of staff is your brother, your sister, that may constitute a conflict of interest. So you need to declare that. I don't know if ACT Foundation policy permits entrepreneurs loans by sub-grantees. We do not fund entrepreneurs at this time, so loans is not something we're open to at this time. Is it possible to give us reasons why applications are not successful? Can an organization request? So because of the volume of applications that we get, so what we do is sort of put all of those learnings together, just like what I did now. We put all of those learnings together, and those are the things that we share as feedback. But one-on-one, the team is not able to do one-on-one at this time because of the volume of applications that we receive. What is the maximum amount an organization asks for? I think we have addressed that. So look at what is feasible for your project. What kind of projects are you proposing? What is feasible? Look at the end of the day, your cost per beneficiary ratio, what does it come to? And then please send in. We do not give a ceiling currently. How can an organization without a board meet the management team requirements? Ms. Indy, an organization without a board, are we willing to partner with organizations that do not have a board?
No. No, that is an emphatic no. And I'll explain why that is to you. First of all, we expect that one of the basic criteria for any organization that is seeking funding will be your financial structure, your governance structure, and then your ability to implement an impactful project. So if you do not have a board, it will make us wonder, what is the governance structure of your organization? All decisions being taken by the founder of the organization or the CEO of the organization, because the board has more than just, the board is fiduciary responsible for your organization. So it's important that you have other people that have other strengths apart from you, and it can be your management team. It needs to be a board of directors who the CEO or the founder answers to and gets feedback from on how to run the organization and run it successfully. So if you do not have a board, that would be a deal breaker. So an organization that does not have a board should not be applying for these grants.
Okay, perhaps you want to take this one too. How can organizations without the capacity to hire full-time staff meet the team's strength requirements? They are not able to hire full-time staff.
Right. So we have partnered and worked with organizations that have a strong volunteer base. So for example, most nonprofit board members are volunteers. right? Most of them are volunteers. Most nonprofits cannot afford to pay their board member even a sitting allowance. So most of them are volunteers. But we need to see the strength of your volunteers. What sort of commitment, what sort of contracts do you have from them? Do they come and go as they please, or are they committed to doing the work? Do you have your staff or team, are they maybe on contract basis? How do they work with the organization? It's already tough that they are volunteers, which makes them people that can come and go as they please. But what sort of structures have you built around your volunteer system that ensures that they are available when you need them and they're available to deliver on the projects? We can't tell you how to put that structure in place, but you need to think about it, because it is important that you have a team that you can work together with to implement the intervention. It's not something it's an organization, right? It's not a one-man business. It involves reaching hundreds of people or thousands of people. You need that support system. So we want you to put together a plan that shows that you have strong commitment from your volunteers that they are available to support the implementation of that project, right? So you need to be able to show that. If you have 2 full-time staff and you have 10 volunteers who have a contract with you to be available to facilitate sessions, if that's what you require, or to travel to different locations, we would see it in their commitments, in the contracts that you signed with them, in previous work that they've done with you. You just need to be able to document that well enough for us to see it on paper and trust that you're getting that sort of support.
Okay, thank you. Are organizations in agribusiness capacity building eligible for this application? Very well, yes. We currently have partners in agribusiness who especially focus on women, and young girls' development. So agribusiness capacity building is definitely eligible for this funding. Okay, so we fund.
Sorry, Vivi, it doesn't have to be focused on women. She's just saying that we
presently have, yes. Okay,
yes.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Yes. Okay, someone is asking that we mention our areas again. We're in health, environment, entrepreneurship, and leadership. You may please go to our website to read more about the areas that we fund. Do we fund digital inclusion projects? Yes, we do. Is that in entrepreneurship, for example? Is it aimed at building capacity of your audience? Yes, that is eligible. Okay. Can you briefly explain your focus areas again? I'm sorry, could you please go to our website and see that, yes. Is there a budget ceiling?
Just to add to that,
okay.
Please do not apply for these grants if you do not go to our website and do some research on us. This is a mutually beneficial relationship, right? ACT Foundation is providing you funding, which your organization requires to scale your impact. But we are also expecting from our own end that you make that impact, because that's what we are going to report to our own funders and stakeholders and board. So you need to research on ACT Foundation. Are we the sort of organization you want to work with? Do we have the right values? How do we fund? How do we support an organization? Please go and research about us, right? You need to know who we are and what. If not so, you will put in an application year in, year out, and you will not get funded and you'll get disappointed and disgruntled. So I would encourage everyone that may not know so much about us yet to please go. There's so much information on our website. Our social media has different information about the organizations we're funded, the sort of work that they are doing. So we're going to give you so much information that it will help you in tailoring your application right. And that way you have a winning application that is likely to get funded by the foundation.
Thank you very much. Okay, is our application meant to be tailored towards one intervention or several tailored towards one issue? Okay, so I'm trying to get you clearly. If you mean, should you use just one approach, then the answer would be as much as possible if you can use multi-pronged approaches, which is usually very, very good in project implementation. Say, for example, you want to do malaria intervention, maybe for pregnant women. You may want to train health professionals, for example. You may want to train volunteers that will educate pregnant women in your particular location. You may want to provide maybe commodities like maybe insecticide treated nets. So those are different approaches to treat one same issue. So we're not asking that you just use one approach. I hope this addresses your question. Farmer-based, yes, we had responded to that. Training, where does this stand? Training fresh journalism, communication graduates on industry-related skills. Is this driven at entrepreneurial skills development, for example? Is it a leadership initiative? You would have to critically consider where that falls under. Can organizations that help women improve breast milk production and also breast milk bank as a separate entity apply for? As much as possible, one organization should please apply once, so that you increase the chances for other organizations to to apply as well. We have been applying with no success. We still applied last year, following the instructions. Please, what are we missing out? Okay. We had mentioned again, perhaps you came in late. We had collated some of the learnings from the past applications and we had shared that. We will share this recording again, so perhaps you want to go and listen again. I am a friend, have been into waste management for some time, but we just registered it nearly less than a month. Can we apply? We had said that we would not be able to partner with organizations that are registered for less than 2 years. We would want to encourage you, however, to go ahead, carry out, do your registration with CAC as it is meant to be if you're in Nigeria, register your business and go ahead with what you're doing. And before you know it, the next grant application will be out here. If you're also in our database, we'd also be pleased to share other funding opportunities that exist with you. Can this funding cater for refugee-led organizations at inception stage? Nathaniel, do you want to jump in on that? Refugee-led organizations. Can this funding cater for refugee-led organizations?
Oh, yes.
I wonder what.
Right. So, I'm assuming that this means that the organization is led by other refugees, by refugees in a particular country. Yes, if it falls in line with any of our focus area, please, that is absolutely acceptable.
Okay. What is the maximum amount of funding given? We have said we do not give a cap. We've said this again and again. We do not give a cap, but please go ahead, consider your project very, very well. Consider it critically and send in what is feasible for the implementation of that project. How do organizations receive feedback once an application has been submitted to the foundation? You will get an email saying that your submission has been received. If that application is successful and moving to the next stage, then you will get a notification. Otherwise, you won't get a notification. Can sexual rights and reproductive health organizations be funded? Do they fall, what you're doing, I assume, would fall under maternal and child health, so that is a yes. What is the minimum staff strength required to apply? We have said 3. 3 is the minimum staff strength. Is it possible for feedback for grants to be shared with us? We have said it over and over again. Please bear with us. Perhaps in the near future, we'll be able to do one-on-one, but at this time, we will only share a collated learnings, just like we have done now. Do we give individual feedback? Not at this time. No, we do not have a budget ceiling. In terms of location, do you mean the nonprofit must be present, have staff in the areas or communities where they work? We have 2 centers where we operate from, but our beneficiaries are from the greater areas of. Okay, so do you have staff working in that other location? If your answer is yes, then please go ahead and apply. We just want a situation where you are able to have full control of the implementation process, where you're not having to depend on uncertainties for you to be able to implement that project. Because if you're implementing in some other location. You need to do community entry, do all of that, work with the leaders in the community. And we want to be sure that you have all of that covered when you're applying. What is the number of full-time students we have responded? Do you fund community-based organization? It's a big yes. Digital programs include teacher training program that uses technology. Yes, please, it does. Can hearing projects be supported? I wonder what that is, hearing projects. Could you please elaborate on that? Can an entrepreneurial arm of tertiary institution apply if you are entrepreneurial? I mean, does that mean that you are for profit? If you are for profit, it's a no. Do you require counterpart funding for grants? Yes, we do not mind. So if, for example, you require 50 million to do your project and you're asking ACT Foundation for a part of it, it will be nice for us to know who are the other funders, just to be sure that the implementation will be seamless for you. So yes, we accept counterpart funding. What if you received funding from an organization a while ago and I think I missed that. Okay. And your contact person at the time has moved on. Can the person still write a reference with maybe email correspondence as evidence, or does it have to be written on the company's letterhead? So for the your reference letter, would like it to come on the letterhead. And I assume that you won't have to depend on one person for reference. You can have as many people as possible as your reference. I hope this helps. Would CSC certificate be needed? It's a definite yes if you're registered in Nigeria. If this project is an initiative under a business, will it be considered, okay, are you saying that it is a social enterprise? If the initiative is targeted at making, at a social impact, and you're not making profits out of that. So that's why we consider social enterprises can apply for our projects. Do we have a breakdown for M&E, direct cost, administrative costs, travels in our budget? Yes, we do. Can you shed a little light on your communication plan? Your communication plan, how do you plan to make yourself visible? How do you plan to make your project visible? When you're doing what you're doing, how do you plan to communicate it to the communities around you, to the global village, for example? Does it okay?
Maybe if I can add to that, yes, please. If I can add to that communication plan, because I think it's very important, right? I think in one of the questions I mentioned that this is a mutually beneficial relationship, right? ACT Foundation is going to be supporting your organization, so your communication plan needs to show exactly how you're going to sort of reach out to the people that are going to benefit from your program, reach out to other stakeholders to be aware of the interventions that you're implementing in their areas, all the different stakeholders. The communication plan also has to sort of help amplify the brand of ACT Foundation, funding and supporting you. In the sector that we are in, right? The more people know about the work you do, the more they're interested in partnering with you, working with you in one form or the other, either through volunteering, through funding, through in-kind support. So that communication plan for us is important because it's going to encompass all of that. You're pushing your own brand, pushing the brand of the foundation across different media platforms, if possible, both new media and traditional media, even through just local town hall meetings, conversations with the different stakeholders within the sector or the space that you're definitely going to be working in. So it's a very important part of this proposal application that you're going to be going through. We want to see that you understand what it means and you know that it is an important part of the entire implementation of any intervention that you'll be applying, that you'll be implementing. So please take it seriously, right? It's not just one of those things people ask for, right? The people that would take their time to document how that's going to happen are likely to catch our interest more than someone that just says, we'll put it in newspaper we'll put it on billboard, we'll put it, and we are wondering, okay, how are you going to achieve it? We'll go on TV. How are you going to achieve it? Do you have the funds to support it? Are you going to get us in-kind support? Are you thinking about how you push the foundation's brand enough where people are saying, oh yes, now we know ACT Foundation. The community, would they just know your organization as the organization that implemented? Or would they know about the organization that also funded you to be able to implement the intervention? Those things are definitely important for you to be able to state during your application. Thank you.
There's one here. It's a bit tricky. They say they've been in operation for 7 years and have reached over 400,000 women across Nigeria, but do not have a good social media presence. Will this affect our ability to get the grant if we apply? Cindy, you want to jump in?
Wait, can you say that again, please?
Okay, so they've been in existence for 7 years and have reached over 400,000 women in Nigeria, but their social media presence is
okay. Okay.
Will it affect the ability to get the grant?
So it may not affect it, right? Because other people are applying as well. We do not know, you don't know how other people are, what other people are going to be saying and going to be doing. But I think that is something you need to take seriously as an organization, because that is physical proof of the work you've done. So you're saying to us that you've reached 400,000 women, right, over the 7 years you've worked. How do you have other ways of showing us that that has actually happened, right? It may not be through social media. It could be through your impact reports, some newsletters that you've done, video clips that you have on maybe YouTube, different things that can show us that you're actually doing that work and you're doing it there. Social media is just an easy way for us to be able to verify that that is definitely happened, and to also see how much you're able to reach your community. So that's something that you definitely need to work on, but I wouldn't say that it is a deal breaker, right? Please still apply, but start working on improving your website, your social media, as an organization is very critical to your success.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Reaching 400,000 women in just 7 years is a great achievement. So we shouldn't throw that away. Okay, Shelley is asking about our administrative costs. That will be 10% of the total budget. You need to have a physical office. Yes, 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 yes. I need for people to hear this. Yes, you need to have a physical office for you to get funding from us. You mentioned digital skills under your entrepreneurial program. Please, I'd like to know if you do this as an organization or fund organization that empower girls. Yes, we do fund organizations that empower girls with digital skills, girls, boys, men, and women with digital skills. Yes, we do. So please apply. Can an organization in more than 2 states apply to implement in a new state where they just started implementation? Have you done your groundwork? Have you found that there's a need for you to move into that new location? If yes, then please go ahead and apply. What is ACT Foundation's confidentiality policy regarding proposals? For instance, if the proposal idea is a great one, but for some other reasons, the application was not considered, is there a possibility that the idea may be suggested to other ACT partners to implement? No, we will never, ever do that with your idea. In fact, for those who get funding from us, in our agreements, we have a confidentiality policy that we hold in high esteem. And we're an organization that holds integrity high, so we would never share your idea with another partner.
If it's okay if I just add to that. So I definitely understand the question, please, and I know that it's a valid question. But this is not something that ACT Foundation would ever do. In the past 7 years of us running grants, this is something that we take very seriously. We understand that people are putting in their intellectual, this is your intellectual property, right? This is your innovation. These are your ideas. There's no way that we can take one organization's idea and tell another organization to implement it. It's the same thing we say to when we're doing some of our trainings on programs where people are constantly thinking about, okay, I don't want any other person to know my idea. Nobody can implement your idea the way you would implement it. And for us, impact is so important that we would not risk our reputation. We won't risk having an intervention that somebody doesn't understand as well as you understand that intervention, right? So that's something that will never happen at the foundation. All your proposals are confidential. We have external reviewers that review all the applications all the proposals that are sent in to us. They sign a confidentiality agreement with us, right? That is legally binding. So they are not allowed to discuss anything that they have, any of the results, any of the proposals rather that they have reviewed. They cannot discuss it. It hasn't happened before, and it's definitely something that we would take legal action against if it were to happen, because it's legally binding agreement. So be rest assured that the information that you share with us stays with us, right? And after we've gone through the process, those proposals, we receive over 5,000 applications, right? How do we even store all of that, right? Enough to go and start finding a particular one. So that's never going to happen. So please be rest assured that won't happen at all. So please feel comfortable enough to share your ideas, right, with us, so that we can better know how we can support your organizations and how you fit into making impact in your community that allows us to be able to fund you. That is very important. Thank you for the question. And I hope that also assures other people as well that the information they share with us is protected, and that we take your privacy very important, and your intellectual property very important. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so Henry asked that when my organization applies for a certain amount and we consider it too much, do we outrightly turn the application down on that reason, or do we cut the budget and offer what is more feasible? So if the applicant has gone through, the different stages and they're toward the end stage, we would definitely during the interviews, these are things that will be discussed with the organization. And yes, sometimes we cut down, a lot of times we have to cut down, but it has to be feasible for the organization to be able to still be able to implement. Cynthia, do you want to jump in on that?
Yes, please, Vivi. Right. So with regards your budget, you know what is most appropriate for the program that you're going to run. But we know that sometimes there are budgets that, particularly when we have gotten to the proposal stage with you, right? We are not going to tamper with your budget until we decide that we want to work with you. And if based on the other applications that we are receiving and we're interested in, we see that your budget might be a constraint, right? We then will have a conversation with you and say, this is an interesting project. We want to fund it. However, your budget is too high at this time based on one or two reasons. And it's a conversation. We would not just totally say, no, budget, this is an interesting project, but the budget is ridiculous. We have to get to that point where we've had you've passed through the first stage of application, passed through the proposal stage, and now we're saying at due diligence level, this is definitely a project we want to fund. Then we would sit down and have a conversation with you, explain to you where we see loopholes or areas that we think. So maybe, for example, you say you want a certain amount and you want to implement in 5 countries, right? It's interesting, we want to do it, but we don't have the money to fund you for 5 countries, right? Particularly if we think maybe you are a young organization, the possibility of you being able to get the maximum impacts implementing across 5 countries might be too much. We might say, okay, can you start with 1 country or 2 countries? Then you go back and review your budget again, and then tell us, okay, for 1 country, so this is what we are going to be able to do. And then we'll take the conversation from there. So it's not a deal breaker when you get to that level where we are deciding that you are definitely the organization we want to work with. Your project is good enough, you have the right governance structure, then we would have a conversation. I hope that helps.
Okay, I hope so too. Okay, now Peter is asking about the board. Yeah, so if you get to the proposal stage, we would usually request a profile of your board member. So yeah, so that's one thing you will need to submit as a separate document. How many organizations do you intend to fund? Could you have a proportional regional consideration? So in the past, we've usually tried to ensure that the spread, for example, in country is in the different geopolitical zones that we have in Nigeria. And when we get applications from outside Africa as well, we also want to consider having organizations in the East, in the West, in the South. So we usually would consider that. But at the end of the day, it's the amount of funding that we have that still decide. But we always usually would put that in high esteem to ensure that the spread is as even as possible.
Can I jump in there?
Okay.
Maybe, yes. So I know because you talked about Nigeria, so I want to also ensure that the our African counterparts also understand how far that goes. So we are a young organization. We are growing every day. We're improving every day. We're expanding our footprints across Africa. We are currently funding interventions across 8 African countries, and we want to be able to increase that and improve that. But we wouldn't say to you that right now we are definitely going to fund North Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, and West Africa. That's not how we are looking at it. We are looking at it based on the proposals that we receive, right? And your ability to be able to deliver that project in your community and all the other criteria that Abiodun had also mentioned during her presentation. So we know that we are a Pan-African organization. In our very first year, we didn't fund any African organization. We funded only Nigerian organizations. We were starting off. So we also had to learn lessons. We had to start slowly, gradually expanding into other parts of Africa. So we can't assure you that we are definitely going to fund your region this year. Your proposal will determine if we fund that country, right? If we fund your project in that country. So regionally, across Africa, there's no limit to a region we will not fund. Right now, we may be a bit careful about funding regions that maybe have some form of conflict or the other, because we have to understand the terrain and ensure that it's a terrain that we are able to support properly, right, without a high risk to our funds in that region. So that's the only thing that I would say about the area. But we can fund any region across the continent. It will depend on the proposal that you share with us. The other thing I want to mention very quickly before I forget, because I can see some budget questions coming up. Please note that Nigerian organizations, right, will give us their budgets in Naira. Any organization applying within Nigeria will be giving us their budget in Naira. Now, organizations applying outside of Nigeria will be giving us the equivalent of their budgets in US dollars. This would help guide us because it's a more universal currency. It will guide us in understanding what your budget looks like in relation to your project. But all Nigerian organizations, please note that the budgets should be in Naira. If you send it to us in dollars, depending on the workload that we have, right? And if you get to the proposal stage, I tell you to please convert it back to Naira. But we have a budget template that we expect you to follow. Please don't go and use your own budget template and use our budget templates and ensure that as Nigerian organizations, because we are domiciled in Nigeria, your budget needs to be in Naira. But for other countries, the budgets would be in US dollars. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. What if an organization has operated for years as community development organization and registered with TAC less than 2 years ago? Can they still apply? Okay, I think we have addressed this question earlier. Please go ahead and apply. The project will need a very strong application for us to be able to consider that. It's a good thing that they've been in existence for some time before registering, but put in the proposal and put in your application and let us see. Okay, this has just been responded to. Is it possible to submit 2 different applications? No, please, as much as possible, submit 1 application so that you increase chances others to apply. Okay, I'm trying to see the ones that are new questions. Must the beneficiary have physical office? Yes. My organization is 5 years old. You recently constituted your board. Can you apply? Yes, please go ahead and apply. Since you have constituted your board, please go ahead and apply. Can administrative cost be incurred by the grant? Yes, we said up to 10% of your total grant. Okay. The latest audit report that we take is 2 years. Yes, 2 years. Okay. Our organization is the child protection and mental health education for children eligible. Yes, please. Yes, you are. Does ACT fund staffing of the organization when included in the proposal? At this time, we're not able to fund the staffing. As we grow, that may change, but at this time, we're not able to fund staffing of organizations. Please, can 2 or more organizations form a consortium to apply? Yes, please, go ahead and apply. We have said we encourage partnership. Yes. Yes, there will be a recording. Yes, we have responded. Yes, you can apply if you're into child mental health education. Is there a research component in your proposal? Yes, please put it in. That is totally okay. If you're in our mailing list, yes, definitely you will get an email from us once the application is open.
Bibi, if I can jump in very quickly.
Okay.
Right. So I'm reading the chats. So I can see some really interesting conversations going on there. Please, we're just to clarify, we're a very inclusive organization, and we realize that we are very focused on supporting not just established nonprofits, but also upcoming nonprofits. So we are open to all sorts of questions. We have this information session every year before the grant, because we realize that there are more experienced organizations, and there are some young organizations that will be seeking funding, and we want to ensure that we provide as much information to guide them, not just for an ACT Foundation grant, but to know what the required standard is when applying for grants. So let's just be patient with each other. We are going to answer as many questions as possible. There's no stupid question here. We're here to provide you as much information as possible to ensure that you put forth your best foot and you do the very best when it comes to your application. So let's just relax and enjoy. Ask any question at all, and we'll definitely be happy to answer it to ensure that you do a great job. Yeah? Thank you so much. Please go ahead, Bibi.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, what if you're sharing a space? What if you're sharing a space with another existing business operating from a co-working space? Can you apply? It's a definite yes. You can apply. Can an organization who focuses on work and family integration apply for your grants? I'm assuming this can fall under, say, a health project.
Can you say the question? Can you repeat the question again?
Entrepreneurship project. Okay. Can a proposal into family integration, work and family integration? Almost I've lost it.
Okay.
Work and family integration. Okay.
Yes. Yes, I think the answer is yes. It depends on how you tailor your proposal. Yes. So yes, definitely. I'll give you a quick example. For example, let's use our eye care initiative, right? Where we are supporting interventions on vision, right? Under maternal health, maternal and child health, right? In that intervention, we also celebrate the World Sight Day, right? Where the organization goes to the workplaces to sensitize customers and individuals walking into different workplaces about why it's important to take care of their eyesight. So it depends on how you fuse them together, and we can see the interconnectedness and see that it has the possibility of making significant impact and it's going to add value to the community. So I think that's a definite yes. It depends on what you're proposing and how you're proposing to do it.
Okay, thank you. In the case of a consortium, do the partnering organizations all need to fully comply with the eligibility criteria? So I'm trying to see, for example, if one, like, can I give you a scenario? If
Yes.
an organization is like 7 years old and they want to partner with an organization that is 1 year old,
yes.
What happens?
So it shouldn't be a problem, right?
Mhm.
But we you would have a contract between all three of you, which ACT Foundation will be aware of what that contract is. You will sign an agreement as partners, right? You signed a grant agreement when we decide to fund you as partners. So there will be sections where every organization that is involved in that consortium will sign our grant agreement, agreeing to our terms and condition on that grant agreement. So if one of you is 1 year old and you trust the person to be able to deliver on, say, the monitoring and evaluation part of your project, and that's why the person's on that group, that is going to be something that you would agree with your partner on, right? But the lead organization should because there must be a lead organization, should meet all our eligibility criteria. Yes.
Okay.
And new scenarios here. So I think this is very interesting conversation. Okay.
All right. My company is a technology and social impact company creating innovative solutions to digitize African languages. Please, what focus area do we fall under? Are we eligible to apply? You want to digitize African languages. You want to help me with that?
So it's not impossible. And sincerely, I would say it depends on how you're projecting it, what you're proposing to do. You want to decide African communities and you're looking at it from African languages. How are you looking at it? Is it from a leadership perspective? Is it from an enterprise perspective? How are you going to do it, right? We have seen interesting proposals that we would never have thought of in our lives to fund, right? If we're looking at exactly what to fund. So please think about how it fits in. Think about the sort of impact you are certain it would make, right? Look at short-term impact and long-term impact, because that's very important to us. 2 years from now, what are the outcomes that we expect to see? 5 years from now, what is going to be that impact? How is it going to change things in your space? Not just because you say so. Do you have research to back it up? Have you back it up? Do you have you done a needs analysis? Do you have evidence to show that this is something that is definitely going to make, is going to add value, right? Most people will be thinking about, let's solve our sickness issues, poverty issues. But sincerely, if you tell us that this is something that is going to change lives, change the way we do business, change the way we teach in schools, then please, by all means, apply. Let us see evidence that this is definitely going to add value, and it's something we would consider. So now, the final decision on who gets funded lies with our external reviewers. So it's not ACT Foundation you need to convince. It's an outsider that is going to look at that and say, yes, this is definitely a doable intervention. And these are experts in the social sector. So they understand the space, they see the potential, and they come from different parts of the continent. So just realize that you're selling this to somebody that doesn't know you. So you have to give them as much information as possible for them to see the viability or the feasibility of the project that you're proposing. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think we have gone through the questions. I'm trying to see if there's anyone we haven't covered yet.
I think we have answered the question about the currency, right?
Yes.
For other countries. We said other countries should, only Nigerian organizations to have their budget in Naira, and every other person from other African countries should have their budgets in dollars. I saw that. To track outcomes on a policy governance intervention, it might exceed your grant cycle. Do you appreciate outputs and little wins at this stage? We understand that, right? So advocacy, policy interventions, we know that takes some time. So yes, but you need to be able to tell us what the wins will be per time. What are the milestones? What should we expect at every milestone? So if you say in 1 year, this is what you expect to see. Now, if you give us an outcome process that is over the 1 year that we're funding you for, we have to see evidence that we can track it, right? Because there are organizations that we've funded for more than a year. We don't just fund for a year. We fund some organizations at every annual, depending on the success of their projects, we can fund you again in the next grant cycle, right? So, but you have to be able to show us that, because we're going to do an impact assessment of our work. So we want to be able to track the progress at every point in time. So if for any reason you give us outputs now, you tell us in 1 year, this is what you should see, by year 2 is this, by year 3 is this, then we can see the direction of your thoughts and how you're going to achieve that. Then it's possible for us to be able to then take a decision on funding that sort of intervention. Bibi, I noticed another question that has been coming up that has just sort of caught my attention, and that is with regards feedback, right? So maybe some people missed the initial part of your session. So feedback, we can't give. So right now, let me put it that way. It's not as if it's impossible, but right now, we are not able to give every single person that applies feedback on a detailed feedback on each of their applications, right? That's going to take us a lot of time, manpower, that we, at this time, we are not able to do, so bear with us. However, all those that we would only give feedback to those that are transitioning to the proposal stage, right? So you say we are successful, you're moving into the proposal stage, right? For those in the application stage, you would get an email saying, sorry, we're not successful at this time, right? Now, bearing in mind that this entire process takes us about 4 to 5 months. So it's not that you apply in October and you expect that you would get, if you're accessing the grant by November, right? There's a process. Bibi has told you how many weeks did the different stages take. So it takes about 4 to 5 months. So you'll be getting feedback from us, say about March, April of 2024. So when you are even applying, we always encourage you to plan for your project to start April, May 2024. So if you intend to start the project in January, right, Act Foundation grants will not have been completed at that time. So we say, ensure that when you're planning to start the project should be about April, May 2024, to ensure that by then you have gotten feedback, you know how much is coming into your organization, and you're going to be able to implement that intervention. Feedback would come directly to every organization that goes through the proposal stage. We would give you feedback telling you if you are moving to the next stage, which will be the due diligence verification stage, the interview stage, where you're going to get to sit down with Act Foundation team, because we are not even going to read your proposals. We don't have the manpower to read your proposals as a team at Act Foundation. That is going to go straight to our review committee, right, who will be reviewing your proposals, right? So the interview will be an opportunity for you to sell your organization to us, sell the project to us, and convince us that this is definitely a viable project for us to fund. And it's at that time that then anybody that doesn't scale through that stage would get more details on why they did not scale through. However, if you do not get any email and you want to know, right, and say, we want to know what we did wrong, we can give you that feedback if you send us an email to say, can you give us feedback on why we did not scale through? If you send us an email, the programs team typically would arrange a call or send you an email. We would go back to the review committee's feedback and we'll share that feedback with you. But we can't do it for everybody. It will be based on requests. Those that want to know a bit more, you send us an email, and there's an email that is attached to the application that anybody can reach out to us on. We will not be taking calls. We will not be giving advice once the grant cycle starts. So don't think you're going to call Abiodun and say, I know Abiodun, let me call her and ask her, I'm just asking a simple question. Should I do it in Naira and in dollars? She's not going to be allowed to sort of deal with that so that she doesn't give one person an advantage over others, which is why we have this conversation. So any question you have for us that doesn't get answered here, send us an email quickly. Let's try and answer it before the call happens. Once the call for application starts, we sort of restrict conversations as much as possible with possible applicants, right? There are certain situations that are definitely stand out or are totally out of the way that you definitely need help with. We would respond. But simple questions that you can find in our FAQs, we'll just direct you to our FAQs. We wouldn't want to, in the process of telling you, I can just say, I'll just advise you to just do something like $10,000. I've given you an edge over somebody that doesn't know me, right? And we want to ensure that we stay as transparent as possible and give everybody a fair chance. We have been working in this space for decades, right? And we know a lot of NGOs. We want to ensure that those that do not know us are not at a disadvantage to those that do know us. So we are not going to be solving any problems that are not maybe related to tech issues. If you are trying to apply, you're struggling with the platform, no. Also, what you have noticed is that if you have any challenge where you have applied and you are not able to remember what you applied for, we will not be forwarding your proposal to you to say, oh, I applied for your grant, but I want that proposal again. Can you forward it to me? We are not going to be doing that because we need to verify who you are. We need to get email consent from your organization. There's a lot of we will have to do to allow us to go back into our system, extract that information and send to you. So whatever you're applying for, please make sure that you are also documenting on your own end so it's available for you to access, to access that. So please take note of that, right? If questions are coming in the chat, we are not seeing that because it's all jumbled up with other chats that are going on. The Q&A section is the best place for you to put your questions. Bibi, can we take any more questions or?
Yeah, okay, so there's this one about do we fund capital projects like hotels, like school building?
Okay, we don't fund capital projects like buildings. We do not fund that at all. We do not fund your human resource costs. We do a 10% administrative cost. I think Bibi mentioned in one of her responses. Yeah, I know people tell us, but some organizations do it. We agree. We are growing. Give us some time. Let's see what happens in the next few years. But right now, we do not fund any building projects. We focus strictly on interventions that are directed at that are project related. I don't know how best to explain it, but no building projects or even rehabilitation projects. It's not something we would fund at this time. Somebody asked about.
I have a question here around no cost extension. I know that in practice we haven't done that. There's someone here who put up a scenario, due to different prevalent reasons. Is it possible that this person is assuming that they have gotten the grants, they are nearing the end of the project, and then due to some things here and there that happen, circumstances beyond their control, are they able to request for a no cost extension?
So if you have the grants, if you've already gotten notification that you're currently working with the foundation and you're currently receiving the grant from the foundation, and you start implementing the project and things come up, we are very non-profits, I don't know, we are very conscious organization of the challenges that non-profits face. We know that things happen, right? And our monitoring and evaluation team are very invested in ensuring that you succeed. So the way we look at it as an organization is that if you fail, we have failed, right? Because we are investing in your intervention, in your organization, in your people, which is why we will constantly do capacity building interventions to support you and your team, which is why the monitoring and evaluation team will call you regularly to find out how you're doing, what your challenges are. That's why we have programs like the professional volunteer programs, where we have experts in the private sector providing free consulting, free mentoring, support, which is why we would share opportunities, training opportunities with you as a grantee through our newsletters. We are very vested in our grantees succeeding. We don't want you to fail. So we will do all that we can to ensure that you do not fail. And if issues were to come up during the project, please do not, there are some people that you try to hide this and manage it, and then it falls apart. There's no need for that with an ACT Foundation, right? We want to know, we want to even know when you have a challenge, right? One of the things my CEO will say is that, let us know the problem early enough so we can support you with solving it as much as we can, either by recommending who to work with, or even ourselves going back to the drawing board and saying, okay, right, the budget has changed. For example, in our country right now, the Forex rates are fluctuating so badly, right? And in different ways. We understand that. And that's the reality of what we as nonprofits are dealing with in implementing interventions. So please have conversations with us. Send us emails documenting the conversations you have with the M&E team. This is the challenge we're facing now. Can we apply for a no-cost extension? Those sort of things. We are willing to have conversations about it and then find the best possible solution that is not detrimental to yourself or to ACT Foundation. Does that help? Because things would come up. Things would definitely come up in the course of implementing. You will lose staff. The community, policies will change. Different things would happen that could affect the project adversely. However, we are hoping that you have also thought about the possible risk, right? That's one of the things that we find, that when we ask nonprofits, what are the risks to your project? They will tell you there's no risk. It's not possible. Please don't put there is no risk. Think through what the possible risks are and how you would manage those risks. We know that there may be some that would come up that you did not plan for, and we want to be able to discuss that and provide you support to ensure that you actually are able to manage that without it totally halting the project or causing the project, any sort of adverse effect or the other.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not certain there's a question we have not addressed. A couple of them, the team is typing in responses to you, especially for those that have been asked over and over again. So I'm trying to see if we have any new questions popping. Funding outside our regular funding cycle, we would not be able to fund anything outside our regular funding cycle.
Yeah. And there's a question here that I think might be interesting. I don't know if this has been handled. You're doing this on consortium applying. The new organization's founder works with the lead organization as staff, and both come together to apply. Will this fly? I don't totally understand that question.
The new organization's founder work. Okay, so both of them now the lead of a particular organization founded another organization, and now he wants to propose both as partners for a project.
Wow.
That's my understanding. I hope I'm correct, Ifeoma.
So please think about it. Is there a conflict? How would that work? Right? In terms you are you're leading in one organization, and in the other organization, you're staff. How are you taking decisions? That's where conflict of interest comes in.
That's wrong.
How are you? It will be a difficult one for you to sell, because if you're, for example, you're the founder of ABC NGO, right? And then there's another NGO that you want to work together, and in that organization you're a staff, right? Who takes the decision? At what point do you take the decision? If you can clearly separate your role from both organizations, then please apply. But please ensure that you mention this possible conflict of interest so that we can have a conversation about it and ensure that it's something that we will be okay with. Because I see a potential conflict there.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you very much. We have gone way past the time that we thought we would spend here. So like Andy mentioned earlier, you can please send us an email at grants@Actros Foundation. We'll type it in the chat box if you still have questions, and we hope that we'll be able to respond to them. Also, this recording will be made available on our YouTube channel, so you can always go back to refer to it. Okay, Cindy, do you have anything to say in closing?
I just want to add that I think there are a few questions in the charts that we may have missed out. And if there's anything different from what we have discussed already, anything that stands out, we will endeavor to answer that question in an email, and we'll forward it to everyone that applied, so that anyone that registered for the program, if there's any question that the team would find in the chat that we may have missed out on, we will try and answer that in the chat. But also, please go to our FAQs. Lots of the questions that you're asking, we have responses in our FAQs. And please go and research about ACT Foundation. Understand who we are funded, what we are funded before. Send us emails, as Abiodun has said, so that we can provide as much clarity. After the grant cycle opens, we will not be able to take calls or questions with regards what you should do. But when it comes to the technology, your application, the email is available. There will be a contact phone number as well that you'll be able to reach out to from between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. daily. We'll be available to pick up that call and deal with any issues that come up. But please bear with us if you ask us a question where we say, sorry, we cannot provide a response to that at this time because the grant is open. But a lot of the information that you need, you would find on our website. Abiodun, if you can please put our focus area up again on the screen. I think we had a lot of questions around that focus area. So if you can quickly take screenshots or photographs, or, something of that, so that you can keep that at the back of your mind, that may be great, right? Please don't forget to ensure that you put the right email address and phone number, so that we can reach you if we find that there's any challenges or any errors that we find in your application and we need to reach out to you. So please ensure that it is correct. We don't just ask for one email. So don't send maybe if the person applying is maybe the program manager, don't put your personal email and your work email. If possible, put your email and somebody else's in the organization email, so that way somebody would always catch up on the email, so you don't miss out on any important information that we share during the grants process. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much once again to everyone who has taken time out to attend this information session. I want to say a big thank you. It shows that you're willing to continue to partner with us, and we're grateful for that. Because of you, we're able to make the impact that we make in Africa. So we look forward to receiving your applications. Do enjoy the rest of your day. We'll keep the focus area on for a few minutes and then we'll close. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We look forward to receiving your applications.
Compassion may be the milk of charity, but a well-articulated vision and organization are the indices that guarantee effectiveness. Aspire Coronation Trust ACT Foundation is a grant-making non-profit organization established in 2016 to support local, national, and regional non-profit organizations working to address challenges and associated vulnerabilities across the African continent. Our work factored from the SDGs formulated for global best practices ensure that we can affect our societies in ways that ensure a cascade of knowledge, interest, and development long after we are gone. This we are doing by fostering ownership as we drive sustainable impact within our communities. Our interests, as evidenced, span health, entrepreneurship, environment, and leadership. In channeling resources to the organizations we fund, ACT Foundation is committed to developing and strengthening them to ensure sustainability through organizational development, monitoring and evaluation, impact measurement, board governance, and support. The objective is to guarantee the delivery of effective and efficient outcomes to the beneficiaries.
When we started off, one of the things that we wanted to do was to make sure that the organizations we're working with, it was not really about just giving them money to go and resources to go and solve problems, but we wanted to partner with them as well to make sure that in the long term, we're building sustainable organizations. You can see the difference in terms of the growth of the organizations, but also in terms of the solutions to problems that the challenges the different communities are facing.